Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. I am multi-published clean/Christian historical romance author Sara R. Turnquist. And if you write fiction that has a faith arc, or even with Christian characters, or perhaps a Christian worldview, you are in the right place.
That's right. Hey, everyone, welcome. We are so glad you decided to join us. We have been discussing a lot of things, the importance of craft a lot lately. And so today we thought we would go in a little bit different direction and we would talk about the importance of what we consume. So, namely, podcasts.
Yeah, I have really just in the last few months fallen more in love with podcasts. I've been following some podcasts for a while, but just really last 2 or 3 months, I has just really exploded my podcast listening. The last time I had a long drive was in late January. I listened to podcasts the whole time. It was like a 5 hour drive. I listened to podcasts the whole time. Mind you, I did have several to catch up on, but I live about 30 minutes, like normally, not when I'm traveling, but when I'm when I'm at home. I live out in the country. So I have to drive about 20, 30 minutes to get to anything. So I have gotten to where I listen to podcasts a lot on that drive. What about you, Cindy? When do you find that you most often consume podcasts?
Well, I have two different times. One is when I come to your house on Mondays because I'm not only Sarah's friend, but I'm her organizational manager. So it's about a 25 to 30-minute drive, depending on traffic. And I will listen to podcasts then. And I also like to listen to podcasts when I'm cleaning or cooking. Because I can pop in my AirPods and listen to a podcast while I'm cleaning or doing the dishes after dinner. So that's when I tend to listen to them.
That's a really good idea. I actually don't listen to podcasts during those times. I think because I don't do my AirPods because I'm afraid the kids will be screaming and crying and, you know,
Yeah.
bleeding limbs and all this stuff. And I'll be like, la da 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 da
Yeah.
da da da.
Yeah.
And,
But my daughter's 26 years old, so she's
yeah,
very
yeah.
independent and
We're in different stages of life.
yes. Yeah.
But right now, I'm listening a lot to the Lazy Genius podcast, Novel Marketing podcast, Your Best Writing Life, Writing Off Social, Jenny Allen's podcast, and The Pour Over. What about you?
Well, I listen to several of the same ones you do. I also like to listen to That Sounds Fun by Annie F. Downs. She's a lot of fun to listen to. And I will say for these starting in January for these next 18 months, she's talking about spiritual discipline. So
Mm.
I really recommend her. I also like listening to Back Porch Theology with Lisa Harper. I like to listen to the Time Team podcast, Theology in the Raw, and Mom Life. And right now, I just found a new podcast called How to Faith a Life with Faith Womack, and she is amazing. I like to listen to
Mm.
her. And then like you, I also like Thomas Olmstead Jr.'s podcast, the Novel Marketing podcast, and the Christian Publishing Show. Those are two that I listen to a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting with the Faith Womack podcast. I follow her on YouTube, and we kind of discovered her independent of each other, but right about the same time. Isn't that weird?
That is,
And it's not like she just started the podcast and the YouTube channel. She's had them for a while, and we just kind of each stumbled upon her in different ways at the same kind of
our
sort of
phones are
time.
listening to us.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
And we talk
I
about the
did.
Bible.
We do. We do. We love Jesus here.
Yeah, we do.
We just do. I do like the pour over in particular. I used to just live uninformed generally about what was going on in the world because I would only get bits and pieces from the people around me because I have really gotten tired of news sources um, from either side of the aisle. They tend to be so biased, and I had taken a break from social media for quite a while. And I also don't know that I feel like Facebook is the best way to get your news because it is also a lot biased. But the Pour Over is not only a faith-based podcast, but they really focus and do their very best to just report the facts without editorializing or putting in their opinions. They incorporate scripture for encouragement, but really steer clear of sharing things that are not factual as much as
Yeah.
possible. And it is so refreshing, I've got to say. They even have a newsletter called the Decaf that features each one will pick a different issue in the news, and they'll talk about it in a way that's family appropriate, like for children of all ages, and they'll include talking points for sharing with your kids so they can
Oh,
learn
that's awesome.
to stay informed. And so they'll have talking points for, the different ages. They'll have something separate for the teenagers in your home, um, on the same newsletter. But I really have liked that, and it's really helped us introduce our kids to being informed about what's happening in the world.
I love that because you're so right. We don't need to be getting our news from YouTube or Facebook because sometimes we don't even know if some of those articles that we see on Facebook are AI
Hello,
generated.
AI. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I need to add that one to my list. I have listened to it in the past, but I need to get back into listening to that one too.
Yeah,
Um,
and here lately they've been doing a series called The Pour Over Explains. So, like the last one I listened to, they've had some more out since then, but I listened to the history of um, Iran, like the setup of the government and how it was established and when it was established and all that. They didn't really get into the current conflict, because the purpose of that particular episode was to help us understand a little bit more about how that country is set up politically, and economically, and that kind of thing. And I really enjoyed that. Those are longer episodes, but they're delving in deeper. They're doing a deeper dive into some of these areas. But anyways, I
yeah.
digress.
No, I think that's interesting though, because I was listening to another podcast about how no, it was a podcast, but I was watching it on YouTube because there are some
Mhm.
podcasts like we put ours on YouTube.
Yeah,
So
I
you
was
can
like
either
this one.
exactly. And they were talking about how, like we are such a big country and we are
Mhm.
at peace with both of our biggest neighbors, Canada and Mexico. But
Mhm.
Iran, they are a smaller country than we. It's still a large country, but it's smaller than the United States. And they have a lot more interaction with neighbors that maybe they don't have
Mm.
the best relationships with. And so to understand their history and how their government is set up, I think would be really important and would help us to maybe have a better understanding of all that's going on over there.
Yeah, I think we as Americans are very privileged in that many of us live in places that border other parts of the United States. Because the majority of our states do not border our neighboring, friendly interaction countries. Um, but I would say, like, think about Europe and how close those countries are, especially some of those smaller countries, and they
Yeah,
share borders with multiple countries. And even if they have a good relationship with those countries, they're way more affected by what happens in these other places, again, politically, economically, ecumenically, all of these things.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so they have to really think about their neighbors in a way that we really, most Americans don't. And it's a
Yeah.
concept that's really kind of out there
Yeah. The only
for
thing we
us.
really have to worry about is like, do you call it Coke for everything or do you call it pop? That's just
That's right.
anyway. That was
That's right.
but yeah, so I do, like I said earlier, I love listening to How to Faith a Life. She has had some real, like she had Jen Wilkin on, who
Mm,
writes Bible studies and is very much into theology. It was an amazing podcast. So if you haven't gotten a chance to listen to that, that's a good one. And then on my Annie F. Downs podcast, once a month, she and her friend Eddie Koffoltz I think I'm saying his name right. If I haven't, please forgive me. But they have Annie and Eddie Keep Talking, because they started during COVID. Every day Annie and Eddie would like get together for an hour, like at 6 in the morning, maybe 5 in the morning his time. And they would just to kind of help people get through COVID. And then once COVID lifted, they stopped doing it, but the audience loved them so much and they loved talking. So they once a month, the last Thursday of every month, they have their podcast. So it's just fun and lighthearted. And sometimes that's all you just need, a good laugh. So yeah. So they're good friends, and it's just entertaining. So tell me about the Lazy Genius.
Yeah, we kind of found the Lazy Genius at the same time, but we were first introduced to her books, and her books are phenomenal. But her podcast kind of is in that same vein. She shares so much practical advice for where I am in particular in life as a mom. I think her kids are similar to my kids' age, but any age of kids, because her thought process is to help take challenges and help give thoughts and suggestions that you could incorporate into your life. But one thing I really like about her is she doesn't say, this works for me. If you do it exactly like I do it, it will work for you too. Because that's just not the way things work. Families are very different. Ages are very different. Dynamics are different. Neurodivergence does happen in families that affects, I mean, you and I both have neurodivergence in our family. But anyways, so as a mom, wife, homemaker, business owner, all of these things, she gives very practical she gives very practical advice for those of us that wear so many hats. And she is really keen on sharing systems that you can incorporate and tailor to your situation. I love it. I love it.
Her books, if y'all haven't read them, The Lazy Genius, and then The Plan. Those are her 2 books that we've read. She also has The Lazy Genius Kitchen. Is that correct?
I read that one too. It's really good.
I haven't read that one, but yeah. And then also listen to her podcast. I love the fact that she is encouraging us not to chase things that don't work. You know, there's so many things that we chase after that we think, if I do this, my life will be perfect. Well, first of all, our lives are never going to be perfect. And what works in one stage won't, like when I was homeschooling, I did life a lot differently now that my girls are older than I did back then. So you have to just be willing to say, okay, this doesn't work, or, a piece of this works. You know, so I just, that's her, I can't recommend her highly enough.
I know.
So I'm a nerd when it comes to archaeology. I love watching them dig in the dirt and discover things. And so during COVID, I actually found this TV show that's all their old shows are on YouTube. It's called Time Team, and it takes place in the UK. And they do a lot of digs, and they find Roman stuff, and they find Saxon, Anglo-Saxon stuff, and they find Tudor stuff, and like 80 or BC stuff, like Iron Age and Bronze Age. My mind went blank, but anyway, I just love them, and they are so fun. And so they started a Patreon account, which I'm not a Patreon, but they do a podcast now. So they talk about the different digs that they're doing, and they maybe revisit some of their past shows and talk about stuff like that. So I listen to their podcast. I also love to watch their shows on YouTube. And I have rewatched bunches of them. In fact, I have a story idea that I got from watching one of it's in my things to write in the future. It's in my notebook of an idea.
Your future parking lot.
Yes, exactly. So if you like archaeology, it's fun for the whole family. You don't have to worry that they're going to say things that you're like, oh, I didn't know that was in there. So it's very family friendly. And my husband keeps teasing me. He's like, the UK is not that big. Haven't they run out of places to dig up yet? And I'm like, no.
Dig it all up yet.
Yeah, that's right. I'm like, well, they're kind of branching out now into different places in Europe. And he goes, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this podcast in particular, let's hone it in a little
Yeah.
bit before we close out. But for those of you that are newer to our podcast, it started as a part of my YouTube channel. It was my desire to reach out to writers struggling with depression. And then out of that came Monday Musings, where I would kind of talk about different things and incorporate how I, as a person that has a depressive disorder, works through different things. I had my husband on one of the podcasts, and then are the YouTube videos, and then I had you on another. And we really decided that the two of us together is a good mix, and I hope everyone out there agrees. It really helps to have someone to bounce off of, and you bring something to this podcast that I don't bring to it. So I really think it's been a wonderful thing, and our target content morphed into more about faith filled writing and writers of faith, then focusing on depression. Not that we don't still talk about it, because it's a part of who I am, and it's a part of what God has called me to talk about and to share about. That's just not necessarily our primary target anymore.
Yeah.
What are your remembrances of the early beginnings of this podcast?
Yeah, I remember you doing the Monday musings, and I would actually sit there in the chair behind you, and we had the
Mhm.
blue cam,
Yeah.
and it was one time we're like, oh, would you want to come on and talk with me about this?
Mhm.
And
And then we
I
moved
was
you to another room so that we weren't, because
echoing. Yeah, I was in your
you like
bedroom.
you legit sat back here and produced the episode while it was going on.
Exactly. So I had to move to your bedroom so we wouldn't
Mhm,
cause a big echo. And I thought it was just going to be a one-time thing, but it was so much fun. And
mhm,
honestly, I feel like most of our podcasts, you and I, and then when we have guests on, it's like we're in the car driving somewhere together, and we're just
mhm.
talking about what's important to us and what's helping to shape us
Yeah,
as women, as writers. And that's our hope, that comes across. And for anyone who listens, we just hope that that's what they feel when they have listened, that they're with friends and we're having coffee, or we're on a road
yeah,
trip, or wherever your favorite place to be with friends is. That's our hope, and that you're encouraged in your
yeah.
writing and you're encouraged in your faith.
Absolutely. I'm going to speak for both of us and say to our listeners and those watching on YouTube, it is Cindy and my desire that if we could, we would sit across the table from you with a cup of coffee and, okay, maybe a refresher for
For
Cindy.
me.
She doesn't drink coffee. Hot chocolate, maybe a hot tea or hot chocolate. That
Yes.
we
Yeah.
would that we would be sitting across the table from you and really just linking arms with you where you are, where you're struggling, where you're encouraged, and just sit with you in it. Unfortunately, that's not possible for us to reach as many people as a podcast can reach. So, we really encourage you, if you are struggling in an area, or if you want to get mine and Cindy's, take on something, or you want us to talk about a topic, please feel free to reach out to us through the YouTube channel. Drop it in the comments, or if it's something you'd rather not drop in the comments, you can absolutely email me at sarah@saraturnquist.com. There's no H in Sarah. I mean, there
Yeah.
is, but not in my name.
Right.
So please feel free to email at any time with anything, even if you just need prayer over
Yeah.
something. Cindy and I share a heart for women and for men too, but more targeted toward women and writers and faith-filled writers, and the struggles that we face as faith-filled
Yeah.
writers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%. But that kind of wraps it up for this episode. Thank you, listeners, for joining us on Soul and Story. And I hope that some of this resonated with you. Words resonated with you. And we hope that you feel a little bit more equipped with his help to step into what he has for you. So, but our prayer for you is that you keep nurturing both your soul and your story long after the episode ends. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening. This episode is over, but your writing journey continues. Visit saraturnquist.com to find links to help you achieve your writing dream.